Hello and welcome back to another episode of Spawn Trap's Hit Pause MCU, the number one Baldur the Brave fan podcast. I am Till. I'm joined once again by Jordan,
Hello, everyone.
and we are just going to be talking about the latest episode of Loki right now, which I don't know when I'm uploading this to YouTube. We're going to be very busy, or I'm going to be very busy. So it might not be the latest episode by the time you watch it, but we're talking about episode 3, right? 3? I think it was 3.
Three sounds right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes.
Now the next podcast for Loki might not be for a bit. So both Jordan and I will be busy for a while. So we're gonna need to play catch up with the new episodes after. I think we're both busy for a week. So we'll play catch up afterwards. Um, Not a whole lot of stuff in the news right now, so it's actually perfect that we're just talking
Yeah.
Loki. Um, I think the only thing there's some stuff about in the news about the one of the books that I talked about, timeline stuff, which I think is interesting, and then Deadpool 3 is delayed. That's it because of the actor strike.
Yeah. Yeah.
So not a whole lot of stuff going on. So we'll just stick with Loki right now. I'm not gonna have the visual context rectangle because I just watched the episode right now, but I want to have the episode uh right next to me because I didn't make any notes or anything, so I want to remember stuff. So, what do you think of the episode?
I think this was the episode I was waiting for. I like the actor who plays Kang the Conqueror. I can never remember his name.
Hmm.
But I liked his all his different variants characters because I think he's played the most variants in the throughout the Marvel universe so far. So it's pretty interesting to
Yeah.
see his different variants. And his stutter was so well done. Like this character they played had a stutter, and it was like I was like, man, I can't even act pretending to do a stutter. Like I was like trying to do it after to like mess with
Hmm.
it, and it was I don't know. He was really I fell for him like hook, line, and sinker. Like it was really well done.
Yeah. Um, if I recall, though, you wanted to see an episode with Kang the Conqueror, and we
I
did
do.
not
I want
see that.
no. I do. I did want to see one with Kang the Conqueror, and I
Yeah,
thought we were gonna see Nathan, or you said Nathaniel.
Nathaniel Richards. So I have
I
some
thought,
questions about
yeah,
that.
yeah,
Because they were in 1890. Well, first they were in 18 something, 1868.
yeah.
Is where they traveled back in time. Victor Timely was just a child back then. I don't even know where to start with the questions I had. We had to rewind this episode a few times because I'm like, wait, go back. I need clarification.
Yeah.
So, um, first of all, the episode starts in 1860. What did I say? 1868. Um, and it said it's on the sacred timeline.
Mm-hmm.
So, um, they go back in that time. Victor Timely's just a kid. They pass him the TVA book, which me and my brother keep having conversations about this because I equate it to a game that we played a lot as kids called Time Splitters,
Mm-hmm.
on the GameCube, Xbox, and PS2. Um, and there's a moment in that game where the main character reaches a door, and in order to pass that door, he needs a key. He sees his future self, and the future self says, "Hey, you need to get through this door. Here's the key." He's like, "Thanks." Uses the key to unlock the door. Later on, he reaches that same point in time, and he sees his past self in front of that same door, locked door. It says, "Hey, I need to pass off this key to you. That like I'm from the future. Here's the key."
Mm-hmm.
That key has no origin point. That
Yeah.
it's just always cycled through a future version. So it feels very much like this book. However, there's a point in this episode where they follow Ravona's tempad for Miss Minutes. They're looking for Miss Minutes. They go
Right.
back to 1868, right?
Yeah.
1868, and they said
I think
she's
so.
not here. Where'd they go? There's some sort of hint or something that they need to go in the future, or some like bigger historical time significance. So they go to 1893, and it says it's a branched timeline at that point because they give Victor Timely the book. So in my, I always hate the key a version of time travel where there's no origin point because it frustrates
Yeah.
me. But them saying like, no, this caused a branch timeline.
Yeah.
I'm okay with it. So I thought it was interesting. I'm like, wait, go back because before they said they were on the sacred timeline. Now they're saying they're on a branch timeline. I need to confirm. So that's the reason why we had to like rewind a few times.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's yeah, I kind of thought that's figured what that was what Renslayer was doing. She was trying to look for another version of him to try to like, create they're
Well, she
basically
didn't
creating
know.
a what?
She didn't know at first because Miss Minutes was like pulling her strings. She's like,
Yeah,
you
okay,
need to
well,
come back.
yeah.
Yeah.
Right, but like the two of them, I knew like the two that we all kind of knew that the two of them were going to be together doing something. But
Yeah.
I'm glad I got my answer about Miss Minutes being a sort of like an artificial intelligence with its own consciousness that
Yeah.
Kang the Conqueror, or I guess technically
Victor
He Who
Timely.
Remains,
Or
He
He
Who
Who Remains.
Remains
Yeah, yeah.
created. Yeah. So He Who Remains created her, and now she's basically just trying to create another He Who Remains
Yeah.
from a different variant. But I was glad to figure out what the hell she was, because like, why is she like a cartoony? She can go wherever she wants. Is she a
Mm-hmm.
different from a different universe? But she's an AI, which is kind of what I assumed. I thought she was like a little bit more advanced than like Ultron or Jarvis, so she
Yeah.
definitely is. Um, so that's kind of cool. Wasn't expecting the whole love crush on He
Yeah,
Who
she's
Remains though.
kind of a crazy stalker, that one.
Yeah, so I wasn't expecting that.
Yeah, I'm
Um,
like, this is a weird little additional plot point. Like maybe they felt they needed to um I don't know, add something to Miss Minutes' story, but they couldn't think of anything, so they
right.
just went with like the natural
Yeah.
um angle because like what else do we know about Miss Minutes at that point? She just works with He Who Remains, so that's what
Right.
they're building it off of.
I can kind of see it too. Like she no longer has a purpose to live for, since everything that's been laid out for her to
Hmm.
do, He Who Remains is done, and now she has to
Yeah.
think on her own completely. So she's like, I don't really completely know how to think on my own. I kind of have whatever. I'm just gonna create another He Who Remains. Like she's. I get that. I get what you're saying. It does kind of feel like an extra story that they're just giving her. But
Yeah.
I also am kind of like, I'm like, okay, I guess I can see that though too, because she's like, I don't really know what to do. It's kind of like if Ultron had wiped out Earth, what would he have done after? Just had an army of himself just everywhere, and that's
Yeah.
it. Like he would have been like, I don't really know what to do from here.
Um
Um, you go ahead. I don't know. I'm done.
yeah, there might be an issue with the recording because might not be doing a private stream to YouTube. I will double check.
I'm gone.
But the
I'm gone.
the other point I was making about that I was gonna make about that time shift and branch timelines is that I think that pretty much confirms our theory last week in our discussion that Brad probably went back in time and killed himself or pruned himself
Yeah,
because
yeah,
he
perhaps.
didn't create any branches. He was on the sacred timeline for years.
Yeah. Am I
So
gone for the thing, or am I there?
you are while I look at this because that's an issue with the
Oh, okay.
software. Okay. There is a private stream growing, so I'm pretty sure the recording's fine. So we're good to keep talking.
Okay. Um, trying to think of what else. I liked the acting. I thought I liked having Sylvie back. I'm glad that she's kind of like getting back into it, and
Did she track them with He Who Remains as Tempad? Is that how she found out where they were?
possibly that's the only thing I could think of,
Yeah.
because I was like, how did you just show up
Yeah.
without whatever? I liked that she's like, fine, you want to be at the end of time? Here you go. And she just boots her into the citadel that He Who Remains is in, and his
Yeah.
corpse was just there, which was
Yeah.
crazy how like skeletal it was already getting
Yeah,
from
it
how
was well, I
like
think
how
some time has passed.
yeah
I think it's been quite a while since it's been there because they're at a point where
yeah
there's so many branches that were happening.
yeah.
Um
Um, you go ahead.
yeah, the other point was I wanted to make about that point in time in the branch timelines, and I'm already forgetting it as I'm saying it. There was a third thing that I wanted to mention. It's about Victor Timely. So what we know about Kang from the story he told
Hmm.
about his origin, he was saying that during the 31st century, a variant of himself,
Right.
named Nathaniel Richards, discovered other multiverses and stuff. This
Right.
is significantly before that, and this is on the sacred timeline, is where it started.
Yeah.
Victor Timely, notably not Nathaniel Richards. Um, I have two possibilities in mind. One, Nathaniel Richards was always a variant. He was never on the sacred timeline.
Right.
Um, so they were always talking about a branch timeline version of that character. Two is that Victor Timely is a ancestor to um, Nathaniel Richards,
Mm.
and they just
I
kind
like
of like kicked off that point in time early.
I like the ancestor thing better because the whole multiverse thing is the I feel like it like I can wrap my head around it until you start changing names. Like every Peter Parker has looked different, but his name was Peter Parker,
Sure,
right?
sure, yeah.
And then you had like all the Doctor Stranges. They all were
But what
all just
about like
played by
Miguel
this,
O'Hara and Gwen Stacy and Peter Porker?
right? But they're I guess they're just they're I guess though you're right. I guess they're variants of Spider-Man.
Mhm.
I find it weird that like I don't know.
When we're
There's
going
spider.
into
It's
we're going to
different
the
because
ancestor
yeah,
thing.
I find it different because the Spider Verse is like its own kind of thing. Like you got all the different
Yeah,
types of Spider Man. Like anybody can be bit by a spider, whether it's Peter Parker or not.
sure.
It's just how it goes through the universe. But like all the Doctor Stranges were played by the same person, and then they're all like looked a little bit different. All the Kangs were played by the same person, but they always look a little different. And the Peter Parkers, I mean, that
Yeah.
one was different because it was bringing in people that we knew, but they're all Peter Parker. I don't know why. So it's Kang the Conqueror, but goes by different conquering names as he's throughout the years. I'm like, are we doing Victor Timely is going to be the variant to all of them, like Peter Parker, or are they all going to have different name,
The
like beginning
the,
names?
the characters that are experts at manipulating and controlling time
Hmm.
has various different versions of him or herself throughout throughout the multiverse with various
Yeah.
different names.
Hmm.
So we've seen a few of them. He Who Remains, a version of Kang the Conqueror, and Victor Timely. So those are
Yeah.
three different people.
Hmm.
Also, the millions of other people at that stadium, wherever they were.
Right. Um, I thought it was cool seeing his temporal loom in the very like the old style
Mhm.
version before he had actual technology and he was explaining it a little bit. I think I have to go and watch that again, but
Kind
it
of,
was
yeah. Because like I was asking about this too when we were watching this. I'm like, what is the temporal loom? And then I was having a whole discussion with my brother, last week I think, and they showed this smaller version of the temporal loom as a
yeah,
concept,
yeah,
and him explaining that he's using time essentially as a generator.
yeah,
So I guess that's what the temporal loom is. Like it's extracting the different branches. So like the loom itself is not the timeline. It's not the sacred timeline. Although it felt like it was a representation of that because of the time,
right,
how the timekeepers, how they explained what the timekeepers are doing in the first season.
right.
But I guess that's not what it is. It's just pulling in timelines to use it as an energy source for the TVA.
Yeah. Like that's that's probably like what I'm getting is like he uses it as a like it's basically a power source. He can
Yeah,
weave time and it powers the TVA outside of the timeline for them to go and prune stuff and branch stuff. But I also know that he like writes. Like he who remains is basically like he's like what I want to happen happens because he controls it. So I was wondering if
yeah.
like he can he man, I'm trying to wonder if like it had like I had to two theories. I'm like, can does he actually write whatever he wants to happen, or because of his temporal loom
I think
and
he
how and
just,
however it weaves
yeah.
time, that's how things happen.
I think he just
So it's
sets events in motion.
yeah,
Like the whole reason, I think the whole reason why Sylvie and Loki got to the end of time is because he did
He-
something to put Sylvie on the TVA's radar, and then he also had Loki pick up the Tesseract because there's the moment when Tony Stark gets smacked in the face by that door.
yeah,
I guess I'm like my thinking is the Tesseract slid further than it needed to, or than it was supposed to, and that's
yeah,
when Loki picked up the Tesseract and set the things in motion.
yeah. But I was just wondering if he actually writes that himself or just his creation of the temporal loom while it weaves time and creates outcomes. Is it the machine itself is like what actually
I don't know
weaves
if it's
time and creates things?
I don't know if
Like
it's
that's what I
actually
was.
doing that though. So that's the thing. I don't know.
Yeah, I know.
Is it
That's what I
doing
was.
that?
See, that's what I was just coming up with different theories. So I wasn't sure if that was it or if it's like my
Yeah.
main theory is just that it powers the TVA and it just generates time in a weird thing. But then they actually sucked Loki out of all the different time things from it. So then I was like, I don't even know. Like the first one when they suck him out of time
Stop saying
slipping.
suck.
So
They pulled him.
they pulled him, they sucked him right out of time.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I'm still confused about the whole temporal loom concept.
Yeah,
It's weird. Um, this was a fun episode to watch. It was
yeah,
all old timey shit.
yeah. I
The
liked it.
intro music was great.
I like
Um,
that. I like Miss Minutes how she's like, aren't you gonna stand out? And then she changes. She was so bright and colorful, and then she
yeah.
changed to black and white. And it was really, I liked that, and I like that whole era now is just like terrified of a giant clock ghost.
uh, yeah, I don't know. Those are the main things about this episode that I had questions about and um really wanted to bring up.
Mhm.
It's just the branch timeline thing, the temporal loom thing. I'm gonna fast forward through this episode a bit and see if there's anything else. I like that we're seeing Loki just use his powers more.
Yeah, yeah. It is nice to see Loki with his powers again. I do enjoy that. Yeah.
Um,
Um,
I like the discussions that him and Mobius were having because they're pretty funny to watch.
Yeah. Yeah, it was a lot of just mostly like talking and like a lot of running and stuff. But there was a few things that were like at least like solved for us. Like it
Yeah.
was nice to see a different variant of Kang. It was nice to see um I got my question answered about Miss Minutes. Trying to think of what else. I really.
Well, we know that Victor Timely makes inventions, but they are mostly scams, right? Like
Mostly scams.
he's mostly scamming people. It's like this is a broken product. Give me a lot of money.
Yeah.
Um,
Um, I I like that he made his own prototype of of a pruner though, or whatever you call it, the prune stick thing.
yeah, that was weird that he had that.
Yeah. Well she gave him the TVA book, right? So it must have talked about
Oh,
prune.
that's right. Yeah.
So it must have gave him like ideas about the pruning, and I'm like, I wonder if that thing actually teleports you to the abyss, or if it just like incinerates you, because like he looked terrified of that thing. He's like, that does not work properly. Like
Well,
he
I
looked.
think the TVA. I don't think they entirely know, right? I mean, Ravona said that it sends him somewhere near the end of time, I guess. But
Mhm. Yeah, I don't know if everybody knows what the pruner does. If it kills, if they just think it kills you or erases you or just
yeah,
sends you to the end of time. But that thing was sparking up. It had like a thing to wrap around you. Like that was a Ghostbuster thing, bro. That thing was huge.
yeah. Everybody, I don't know. It's so weird. Everybody's attacking each other, but they kind of have the same sort of goals.
Hmm.
And it was weird seeing that fight. Like, like Ravona, Loki, and Mobius are like, oh, we need Victor Timely's help to fix the temporal loom. But they're
Yeah,
also hiding from each other and trying to fight each other, which
yeah.
is so weird.
So let's go over this. Also, Miss Minutes betrayed Renslayer.
Mm-hmm.
Miss Minutes betrayed Renslayer and was like, "Just
Because
you
she
and
got
I are gonna
jealous.
be." Yeah, she got jealous, and she was like, "You and I are gonna be partners." And clearly, Victor does not like being partners with anybody. He's a solo. He likes being solo.
Yeah.
So he jumped aboard with Miss Minutes and betrayed Renslayer. And then he also betrayed Miss Minutes because she got too clingy. This guy's just, just betraying everybody as soon as they get too close. So, um,
What happened
then
to him at the end? Oh yeah, he went through one of the time doors into the TVA. Yeah.
yeah, he went through. So at the end, when everybody gets together and they're all fighting, Miss Minutes gets, what does she get? Does she get like turned off or locked away in a temp pad? Is that what happens to her?
Yeah. Victor Timely pulls up a temp pad and like stops her.
Yeah, which is weird because I thought like she's like a crazy AI, but she's still controlled by computers and stuff. Like, I feel like Jarvis or Ultron could have overrid something like that, though. It just seems like there's just an easy way to turn her off. I guess Kang invented her, so he must have had a way
Also
to
weird that
easily
he has
stop
the
her.
technology in this time.
Yeah, well, he got the temp pad from something. I don't know if he
Mm-hmm.
took someone's, if he took Renslayer's one after they betrayed her. I don't know. I don't know whose he has. But after that whole fight in like the barn, I think it's a barn or something that they're in. So I'm trying to go here off my memory. So he follows Loki and Mobius through a door into the TVA, correct?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And then uh, Sylvie kicks Renslayer into the end of time and
Mm-hmm.
locks her away there.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's just the episode ends with Renslayer and Miss Minutes in the Citadel with a dead corpse of Kang at the end of time. And she gives a line. What was the line she says?
She says, I can tell you right, I can read it for you because I'm watching this as captions. Um, it was foolish of him to make an enemy of out of someone who knows all of his secrets. I know a really big one about you. She's referring to Renslayer.
Right.
And she says, I can tell you, but Renslayer says, but what? And then she says, it's going to make you real angry.
Yeah. Now I have like a couple theories. Either that's just something about where they wiped her memory as a variant, and
Mm-hmm.
um, hmm, and then she's obviously not happy about the life that she lost. That's just one. That seems like a very easy one. Two is like I'm wondering if Renslayer could possibly be like a child of Kang, an ancestor, like sibling at all. Like possibly not. This is just theories I had. And then
Yeah.
I was wondering if she's like even like a wife or something, or someone who came up with some of the stuff. Like I'm wondering like what would make her so mad. Like what would be?
Want me to spoil that for you?
Yeah, sure. I'd love to know.
Uh,
Do you
uh,
know is Renslayer in the comic books?
yep.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Go ahead.
Um, I so this is a spoiler for people watching. But then I was gonna say like for Jordan's theory, for like for your credit,
Yeah.
Marvel changes stuff. Like Hela's not supposed to be the sister of Loki. She's supposed to be the daughter of Loki.
Right.
So, so for Renslayer, yes, that could very much be the thing. In the comics,
Yeah.
I don't know if they were married. Maybe there's versions of them that were married, but
Okay.
she was his love interest.
Okay, because that
So
was gonna be my next thing. I was like, it's either family or
yeah,
like a wife or lover who he was like, no, you're getting too close. Because then that would explain like how Victor was kind of getting like close with her, and then was like, no. So I'm wondering if Kang, or I guess technically He Who Remains, was like the same way. He's like, I really like you, and you helped me with my work and stuff, and you put me on top, but I don't want to do a partner. So he makes her like the head of the TVA as like a,
yeah.
erases her memory. So I kind of could see that too. So.
Uh, I like Victor Timely's discussion with Sylvie, making it relevant to her, because Sylvie's variant, she didn't do anything, and then this whole organization was after her for her just living her life. She's doing the
Right.
same thing with Victor Timely. Like, I didn't do anything. She's like, you will. He's like, I'm not that person. I make my own decisions. You don't
Yeah.
know me or what's in my heart. And so I like that, of her calming down and changing her mind.
I did
Um,
too, because I was like, if she kills him, I was like, you're doing the same thing that you were pissed about for like all of
yeah,
season one. So
yeah, that was a necessary discussion and
yeah,
character growth there. Um, I'm wondering what is next for these characters because I
yeah,
feel like the goals for Miss Minutes and Ravona have changed in this episode by
yeah.
the end of the episode. Um, so now I don't know what their goal is. Well, except for Ravona says, I'm making my own rules and I'm the one in charge. Okay, but what is that exactly? What do you what's
I don't know.
what's your
Unless
plan
she
to?
wants to, unless she wants to control the TVA and then just change it to how ever she, make she gets to decide the future now, or unless she just wants to create chaos. Miss Minute seems like she is just going to be on a chaos warpath after this. Like she might use
Yeah,
Ramona for as much as she wants. So is her name Ramona Renslayer? Is that what I
Ravona.
Ravona? Because I keep calling her Renslayer, and
Yeah,
then you
that's
keep
her
calling
last
her
name,
Ravona. Yeah. So I honestly have barely even remembered her first name. Everyone calls her Renslayer
which
so
is
much. But
weird. People have first and last names in the TVA and then also letters and numbers.
yeah, yeah.
Mobius's name is Mobius M. Mobius.
Jesus. Triple M.
Um,
Um.
well, it sounds like to me that Ravona said she wants order.
Mhm.
Um, I'm not too sure that they're in the chaos angle, but it sounds like by the end of the episode they want revenge.
Oh yeah.
I don't know how that's going to play into order, but other than them taking over, uh, not just the TVA, but he who remains his position
That's what I was thinking.
and controlling the timeline.
Maybe even maybe trying to wipe out every version of him too.
Yeah. Maybe even reworking the timeline to maybe say that maybe mutants exist in the timeline.
Hmm.
Um, but then we got Victor Timely in the TVA. So
Right.
Mobius and Loki are hoping that because he's a variant, supposedly, of He Who Remains, his temporal aura might help fix the loom.
Yeah.
I don't
Uh,
see how, because wouldn't he have a different temporal aura?
I think so. I'm wondering if there's a way that they're gonna like kind of hack it. Like maybe um what's the guy's name? Obi.
Oh, but yeah,
Maybe unless Obi knows a way where he can kind of tweak it in some way, because everything seems to be uh there's
yeah.
everything is possible in the Marvel universe. So I'm
Mobius
wondering
gave
if
this
there's a way.
suggestion.
Yeah.
Can we what was his phrasing? Not can we hack it, but he might have said hack it. But
Yeah.
but uh maybe just cuz Victor Timely
Tweak it
has,
or something.
yeah, tweak it maybe. Um he has the knowledge of the TVA guidebook now
Hmm.
and throughout his whole life studying it. So maybe he does have some ideas of how to get past it without the temporal aura or without Miss Minutes.
Right. I have something I just thought of that I'm also curious on your thoughts of, or maybe you
Hmm.
can help explain it. You know how? Okay, so there in your theory for the uh multiverse, that the sacred timeline, there was no other universe possible, right? Everything was always pruned. So until they branch is when other variants are created, right?
Yep.
So and there's no way they've started branching until the end of Loki 2, which is when we saw Doctor Strange and the Peter
Hmm.
Parkers and stuff. Now, what doesn't make sense to me unless you want to say that the quantum verse, what's it called?
I know what you're gonna
Quant
ask. I know.
Ant-Man Quantumania, so the
Yeah.
quantum, what's it
Hmm.
called? What's the universe called? The
Quantum
quantum
realm.
verse? Quantum realm. Thank you. So the quantum realm is separate from time. So like there's that theory, but I'm wondering cuz technically Um, Ant Man and the Wasp, their I guess Wasp's mom,
Hmm.
she met a version of
Hmm.
Kang the Conqueror
Yeah.
way before uh Loki ever happened. So there was already a separate of him, and he said he was part of the Marvel verse war. Marvel Universe War that he got sent there, and he crash landed there in like what the 1930s, 1940s, whenever maybe the 1950s, whatever age that happened at
I
for
think,
Ant Man and the Wasp.
yeah.
So he knew that there were already other variants, and there was Universal War, which I think has to have happened way before he created the Sacred Timeline, or he got sent there like after the whatever. Oh yeah,
Mhm.
way before. I'm just curious. I'm just so confused as to how he's alive and knows what the Marvel universe or all the different variants of him, and he's the worst or whatever. Even though like
Mhm.
this dude has been controlling one sacred timeline the whole time, so there shouldn't be other variants. And that, so I'm just I don't know.
I knew this question was gonna come up eventually.
Hmm.
Because I had the exact same questions.
Yeah.
Um, yes, in my mind, the quantum realm exists outside of all of that.
Yeah.
That doesn't exactly answer the questions that you're asking, though.
Yeah.
So I don't have a definitive answer for you.
Yeah.
Other than um, Quantumania, the movie,
Right.
happens post Sylvie. Um, but um, yeah, what's her name? Janet getting
Hmm.
sent to the quantum realm always happens. Um, so regardless, she's gonna be sent there. Whether Kang being sent there or not has anything to do with where um the sacred timeline takes place or anything, I don't
Right.
know, because I think theoretically there's endless possibilities of Hank Pym traveling back into the quantum realm to get Janet out of there.
Yeah.
Um, because if the quantum realm exists outside of everything, then that means every version of Hank Pym is traveling to the quantum realm to try to get her. Um,
Yeah.
that said, it could be there's several different quantum realms within several different timelines, and the one we're seeing is one that exists within the MCU sacred timeline.
Yeah.
Um, but even then, I don't think that fully explains the question. So I don't have an answer for you. That is a hole in my theory for sure.
Yeah.
That might be able to be explained later on if Marvel wants to get into it.
Right.
But it is a valid question and criticism of the theory that I don't have a definitive answer for.
Yeah. So like I that's the only thing. I was like, you could just say quantum realm and has all its own fucking rules. And even Kang was like, well, he's locked down there. There's no way for him to get out without his technology. So
Yep.
like I can just keep writing history without it. And I was like, it still kind of makes sense with mine. I was like, he's still weaving his own theory and
Mm-hmm.
branching anything, so his branches don't touch the rest of my tree theory.
Yeah.
But he still has that other Kang the Conqueror in his, and he's just like, fuck it, like I don't need to really branch. Like he's stuck there. So like his thing isn't a branch touching ours; it's like a leaf that fell from one branch and landed
To
on my
another. Yeah.
branch. So it's like it's on my timeline, but it's not a branch. It's like a leaf that just fell and is like
Yeah.
stuck there and whatever. And I was like, okay, I can kind of whatever. I was like, it's just it's different. I was trying to think about that. I was like, that's so confusing
It
with him
is.
being
Yeah.
there, in like the 1900s, even though his whole time sacred timeline has been there for decades or eons, whatever. So
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like with your theory, it leaves more credibility with Quantumania. Um, so I don't know. I'm still on the mindset of just based on everything else they explain, um, how there's no branches with when the sacred timeline is its thing.
right,
I will say that that's not the only contradiction in the MCU. There's so many. But
yeah,
in regards to time travel, they're already contradicting themselves in many different ways. This show, even as well, and we've had that discussion in the first few episodes of the TVA and how they're changing the rules of time travel. I'm making it make sense in my mind that TVA exists outside of all time, so time travel rules work differently in the TVA. But there's other shows and things that we've seen in Phase 4 and 5 that are kind of like um contradicting to the rules of Endgame, let's say.
Yeah,
So that was always my concern about the bringing in time travel into the MCU. I knew it was
yeah,
inevitable because it's a thing in the comics, right?
right,
But the comics is all don't make sense of anything of the comics because whatever fits the plot that they want to say. Um, but for the MCU, I'm like, please make it make sense. And
yeah,
Endgame made it make sense, and I'm like, that's probably one of the best versions of time travel that I've
yeah,
seen that makes sense for the most part, whereas everything else has always contradicted itself. And then
yeah.
now they're starting to contradict themselves in the most recent stuff that we've seen. And that's always been my concern. But so far, I'm trying to make sense of things in my head as they go along. So we'll see if they can keep this up.
Yeah, I think that's why people liked the like Marvel was like so like everything mixed together and weaved together and connected together pretty well.
Hmm.
Phases 1 through 3, and then I think once like 4 and 5 have happened so far, people are like I could get on board if you
Yeah.
guys made it make sense, but you guys have changed it a couple times and like it's exhausting almost. So like I kind of hope the
Yeah.
multiverse like I know we're gonna do phase 4, 5, and 6 of this, but like you guys are gonna make way more money if you make it make sense better. Like that's like
Yeah.
I don't
I,
think any of the new movies have made anywhere near like the Avengers or Guardians of the Galaxy movies have made prior to. Like I don't know.
well, I think there's a quality question to it, and then there's the making sense of it aspect to
Yeah,
it. And I think the making sense of it aspect to it fell off when they decided to introduce time travel as a thing that exists in this universe. Because that complicates things and that
yeah,
historically just makes things way more convoluted and complicated than just saying that all of these properties exist within one universe.
right.
I think it made sense for Endgame as the culmination of all these different movies and having a nostalgia factor of it and going back in time and reliving some of those great moments. I think it makes sense for some of the stuff that they wanted to start introducing this villain, introducing crossover stuff such as Doctor Strange and Spider-Man,
Yeah,
and some teases at stuff that's coming up that we'll see, and like Deadpool and things. You know, this is at a time where Marvel's getting rights to their characters back. They have
yeah,
almost everything now that they didn't have before. So they're trying to make sense of how do we slowly weave things into the franchise without
hmm
being like, no, we're just like rebooting everything. And I think this introducing the multiverse time travel is a way to explain all that. So it makes sense in that regards, but at the same time, it just complicates everything.
I think like yeah, like I can wrap my head around Endgame. Doctor Strange. The only way they traveled throughout multiverses was because of that girl's power. So like that's easy to understand. It's power. It's like magic, and it's the same
Mhm.
thing with Peter Parker's. There was a magic spell, and it brought in
That's
people
still
from
all
all the
Doctor Strange too, yeah.
multiverses. Yeah, so like I kind of get that. The TVA makes a lot of sense, but a lot of it is kind of like, can you explain that like 8 more times better?
Yeah,
Because like it's like it makes sense and it doesn't at the same time.
explain it like I'm
It was
5.
yeah, like it was like the same thing with Obi when they were having that conversation with the past and in the present.
Yeah.
I was like, he's like, no, I've never had that before. Oh wait, actually, I kind of do. Like I was like, what? I was like, this is entertaining, but I'm like, it doesn't. It is like your key theory, right? It's
Yeah.
kind of yeah, I don't know. I feel like the key theory to me only makes sense if I look at it like there's like portal, like there's a beginning and an end, and the key is just constantly going through the
Yeah,
portal.
but at
There's
that
no.
point, where did the
I
key
was like,
come from? And then
yeah,
eventually the key is going to degrade and be destroyed
yeah.
because there's
I was
no
like,
end for that key. It's just reliving the same moment over and over again, which that moment has its beginning and end, but the key
Yeah.
doesn't. So the key is
Yeah.
constantly aging. It's getting older while the events that it lives through remain the
Hmm.
same. So that key is going to be destroyed at some point
Oh, that'd be so
and
cool if they
cause a
did that in a
branch
movie.
timeline.
Yeah.
So
Eventually, you go to hand somebody the key
yeah,
and it breaks because it just turns to dust, and then they're like, "Oh fuck!" and it creates a timeline.
yeah.
Like, give us that. Let us see that so we know.
So them saying that Victor Timely created the TVA, I mean, he asked the question. So I created the TVA.
Yeah.
Their answers were in a sense because he
Yeah.
didn't, right? This
Yeah.
is this is a branch. I think they're establishing this is a branch timeline. Victor Timely had nothing to do with this. They were seeking out a version of Kang that exists within the sacred timeline,
Yeah.
to try to restart everything, right? This is a
Hmm.
new person that's going that in their mind is going to restart everything. So he did not create the guidebook that he was sent to learn about the TVA. So the guidebook is not a key at this point. It's not a time splitter's key.
Yeah.
That's not what the guidebook is at this point. But I'm worried that something in the show is going to introduce that metaphorical key, and I'm
Yeah.
not going to be happy about it.
Yeah. That's every episode I watch. I'm like, as long as you can make me understand through the whole episode, I'll be happy. But if I have more questions by the end, then I'm just like, oh, that doesn't make sense. And
Yeah,
if it doesn't get solved by the end of the like season, I'm just annoyed.
we're really critical about the show and analytical and everything, but overall, I'm loving the show. I think it's a fun
Hmm.
time. It's still top of like one of the top shows on my list. So
Yeah, like I have questions, but I'm not like
yeah.
completely lost. So like I enjoy it. I like the banter between Mobius and Loki. I really like the actress who plays Sylvie. I think she's doing a great
Hmm.
job as like a female Loki. OB is a lot of fun. I love all the Kang the Conqueror variants. I think that guy's an
AC.
amazing. Yeah, I think that guy's an awesome actor. Like
Yeah.
I like him a lot. I hope all the rumors that happen. We'll get on that another day, but I hope those are all like
I think
untrue.
there's no point in talking about them until
Right,
there's
until something
a
comes out. Yeah.
conclusion of to it, right?
Until then, I'll eat my. Oh, when that happens, I'll eat my words. But I think as an actor, actor alone, he's really
Yeah.
good. So,
Yeah.
um,
There is one thing that Victor Timely talked about. I don't know if I can roll back to it, but they were talking about like who he becomes in the TVA, and
yeah,
he said something about like all these visions that I've had about myself, they're true. Um, that is, I think, a clear reference to he's dreaming about multiversal versions of himself that are from branch timelines, that he's seeing in his dreams, a la Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness.
okay.
Yeah,
That's what I was thinking too. What was her name? America Chavez. Didn't she
yeah,
say like
he doesn't
people's
dream.
dreams,
Yeah,
like when you die and stuff, like those are other variants of you throughout your dreams.
yeah.
But yeah, she doesn't have dreams because she's the only one.
And if I wasn't already in the process of like rewatching a bunch of Marvel stuff, right?
Yeah,
Um, which has been I think it's been a well over a year of doing that. I think it's been a few years because we're going through like the
yeah,
TV shows and everything too. Um, I would want to rewatch everything for moments in like for my sacred timeline theory. Any moments in time where a character said that they were dreaming
yeah.
and think like that doesn't make sense in my theory because you're on the sacred timeline. You shouldn't be dreaming about other people.
And see, that's where my theory makes sense,
Yeah.
but yours doesn't.
Yeah.
Like mine is a branch of a full tree of a multiversal war,
Hmm.
and all my characters are my branch is dreaming of all the different ones, whereas yours is just yours shouldn't yours is dreaming of branches that are being erased constantly. So
Yeah,
like there's never
either
a
they're being erased or
should have happened or aren't yet,
yeah, yeah.
etc.
I mean, there's
Yeah,
other ways around it, or maybe they're just
yeah,
dreams at that point. Like maybe
yeah,
there needs to be a void in the space of dreams.
yeah.
But there's also a dream realm in Marvel Universe, which I don't think we've ever seen yet. No, we might have seen. I think in Cloak and Dagger we've seen it.
Huh.
But there's been, yeah, like Cloak and Dagger. Just other things that I can think about where I remember characters dreaming. It's like, wow, that's a fucked up universe that you're thinking about, because there's the one moment, I'm spoiling some stuff right now. In Daredevil, Karen Page, after she kills somebody, she has a
Yeah,
dream about Wilson Fisk finding her and in her apartment, and then he like strangles her to death. I'm
yeah,
like, oh shit, that's another universe where Kingpin killed Karen
right.
Page. And just things like
Um,
that I'm thinking about.
so I'm curious. When in no Infinity War, when Tony Stark says that he had a dream
Hmm.
that Pepper Potts was pregnant,
Another one.
whatever. I was like, is that a different universe that she's already pregnant, or is that? And like to us, we just thought it was something that was gonna come up. Like I was like,
Yeah.
that's foreshadowing. He's gonna have
I,
a kid
I
eventually.
guarantee you
But
the
yeah,
writers thought the same thing as us.
yeah,
They didn't know anything that they're going to start introducing concepts in Doctor Strange and Multiverse of Madness.
yeah. It was definitely a foreshadow. But now we're like, okay, that was a. Now that means he had a baby with Pepper Potts in a different universe
Hmm.
sooner than
Yeah.
his timeline. So trying to think of others. I'm sure. I feel like I've heard
I think there's a few
Steve
others I could think
Rogers.
of.
I feel like Steve Rogers said he had a dream about Peggy or Bucky before.
Yeah.
Like I can't think of the scene, but I feel like I remember him saying something like that. But
Yeah, there's been other instances of that as well.
mhm.
So yeah, that'd be a fun thing to like, as I'm like doing another rewatch in the future, just jotting
Mhm.
down anytime somebody's ever dreamed about something.
I would love. We should do that. You, me, your brother.
That's a time.
Uh,
we're
just like
already we're
one.
already in the middle of watching stuff, and
Yeah.
it's gotten to the point now where he's like, I'm kind of like not excited about this stuff anymore because there's too much, you know?
He's not. He's not.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true.
So he actually posed a question. I don't know if you want to get into this topic here, but he posed a question where, because right now, not me, but like the internet is not, and I'm sure you're part of this just by what you've been saying, but Phase 4 and 5 not as strong with Marvel as the Infinity Saga.
right.
Um, but he got to a point where saying like, I think it was after Secret Invasion. Secret Invasion wasn't the best show. I
Yeah.
think we both liked it.
I think we said I think believe my words were I enjoyed it,
Hmm.
and I think I like the concept, but I don't think it was executed as properly.
Yeah,
Like I
yeah.
think it could have been better with better writing and
Hmm.
maybe better CGI, because that
Yeah.
ending fight was like I was like, really? I was like 10
But I've
second
I've
fight.
said it's like it's lower tier Marvel for me,
Right.
which isn't a bad thing because I like everything.
Yeah.
But he got to a point saying like, like after Secret Invasion and all this other stuff, when do you get to a point where um you're gonna say, I'm not interested in this stuff anymore. I'm not gonna watch it anymore. Like if
That's
things get like really bad or something like that.
Yeah, I feel like that's a loaded question. Like, there's already people who are probably like, I'm done with the shows. Like,
Hmm.
just I'm sick of the shows. They're always about like kids or new characters that I'm not interested in. And then people are just like, I'm just gonna watch the movies.
Yeah.
There are also people who gave up as soon as Iron Man snapped his fingers. They were like, that was the last one for me. I don't need to continue this. Like that chapter's good. Whatever they go on from here is like kid stuff. There are people like you and me. We're probably gonna watch everything. It has been painful for me to try to watch the rest of She-Hulk or Miss Marvel. Like me and Jess are like, do you? I always ask if she's like interested, and we're just
Watch
like,
Miss Marvel. Miss Marvel's the
not
important
really.
one. She Hulk's.
Right.
If you're in a
We
and
were
if you're in a fun mindset, She Hulk can be fun.
Yeah. See, we're both gonna finish Miss Marvel before the movie comes out because we
Mm-hmm.
know it's important. When She-Hulk shows relevance in something like upcoming, I will probably
Mm-hmm.
go back and watch it. Be like, okay, now she's in a movie. I gotta go back and watch the
There,
actual
there's
show.
a there's an
I got
important there's an important uh there's an important update
Hulk,
on at least one major character in the MCU.
probably
I
Daredevil.
would I would say a few of them.
Yeah.
But Yeah, mostly like major update for one character for sure. Um,
Can you tell me?
no,
Is it Bruce or Daredevil? It's probably Bruce or Daredevil,
it
or
probably
she.
is.
Okay, or She Hulk. I'm like, there's only three I know from the show, so I'm like, oh, I like Daredevil. So when Daredevil comes back with something, I'll be like, okay, I'll watch the show. Maybe they're boyfriend and girlfriend. I don't know. Like
I'll
I,
come
I
back
didn't
in
watch it.
Echo, but I
Okay,
don't know. Maybe She-Hulk will make an appearance. I don't know.
right.
Um,
I'll when it comes to that part, I'll go back and watch She-Hulk. Like I'll give it a go. But right now, I'm so busy that I'm like,
hmm
this show is not important
Oh,
to
I
me. Like
get you. And
as
there's
soon as
there's a
Loki,
lot of
yeah,
episodes too. So,
yeah. Like I rewatched all of Loki in a day,
hmm
and I didn't. I still haven't watched Miss Marvel or
know what?
She-Hulk. So
Know
like,
what? Know when I'll spoil stuff for you is when the topic we talked about last week about like making up the teams and everything. Um,
yeah,
I did some research
mm-hmm,
and I came up with, and I was very liberal about it. I'm like, that I can add that character, why not?
yeah,
So I came up with 215 characters that
yeah,
we
damn,
can look at.
okay.
And there's definitely going to be She-Hulk and Miss Marvel spoilers in there.
See, and that's fine. So I'm sure there's another character that's introduced in She-Hulk, and I
hmm
like that's cool. But until I like you like at least give me a teaser of it, I'm like
Yeah,
I don't really have the interest to watch She-Hulk. Like
sure.
She-Hulk already is like you came out of nowhere for me, and now you just have powers. I don't
So if
know.
I said there was a big update to Hulk or Daredevil by the end of She-Hulk, then you would want to watch it.
I would want to watch it, but it still might not make me watch it right away. Like until I
Gotcha.
see like when do we see Hulk last? Like we saw Shang-Chi,
Yeah.
and they were talking about the rings, and Doctor Banner was there with who? Doctor Strange?
What episodes
No,
of
was it Wong?
She-Hulk did you watch? Was it just the first one?
I think it was just one and two. I think we just watched
Yeah,
two.
gotcha. Yeah.
How many were there? Is there like 10?
I think there's 9,
Okay, it's not that. It's
8
not
or
that bad.
9
I
maybe.
think maybe
They're like
maybe we can get around to it.
half-hour episodes, I
Yeah.
think.
I did like the Caribbean style tiki bar that Tony Stark and Banner built. That was cool.
That's the best the graphics looked in that show.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh boy.
um, but no, I actually did enjoy She-Hulk. Throughout my review series on this channel here, um,
Mm-hmm.
because I actually really do like when you're doing like these comic book characters in a more like fun, sarcastic kind of way and like making fun of them. And She-Hulk does that
Yeah.
in several ways. Kind of like I don't know, sort of like a Robot Chicken kind of, or what was that show with Patton Oswalt, Marvel character. Um, I want to dress up as him as Halloween, but I couldn't find a costume. uh, Modoc, Modoc, the show. Um, that's kind of fun, and I'm loving Harley Quinn. That's a great example of that stuff too.
MODOK was like the animated one, right?
Yeah,
Okay, I didn't watch MODOK. I have been watching Harley Quinn. I think I'm on season 2. I really like that
yeah.
actually. So
I love Harley Quinn. Yeah,
yeah.
I just caught up on the show, and this most recent season, I was like laughing so many times. I love that show. But yeah, so like, it's a more fun side of the MCU.
Hmm.
Kind of like making fun of events or characters, like in a way, and I love seeing that stuff. So, I definitely wanted to see a comedy set in the MCU. So that
Yeah.
kind of scratched the niche, but it wasn't a well written or like well made show in
Right.
general. So there was one episode in particular I'm like, I hate this. I hate everybody's character motivation. This is like the worst thing ever. But then there was like a few episodes I'm like, this was great. I had a fun time. So it's kind of like a mixed bag for me on She-Hulk.
Yeah. Trying to think of what was I was gonna say. Um, damn
Something about She-Hulk, something about Miss Marvel.
something about She-Hulk. I think if the like if the CGI was better, it
It
takes me out when they're
has
not good.
nothing. Yeah, I get it, but it's
Like
like
that, it takes me out of it when I'm like, this looks silly and cheesy. Like I
and
hate it. Like that
yeah.
fight scene with at the end of Secret Invasion, I was like I wanted to just throw it up and be like, okay, I'm done. I'm out of here. I'm like,
I
this
think you
looks
texted me when that was
yeah.
happening.
I was
Um,
like, this is stupid.
until all the visual effects studios unionize, I don't think that's going to change because Marvel's in a production like let's pump stuff out, right? They said that they're
Yeah,
gonna start slowing that stuff down, but they want the money, so
yeah,
and they want to hire visual effects on the cheap, as cheap as they can. So I don't know. We're starting to see unionization even in within Marvel. Their own visual effects studio has unionized,
yeah,
but they don't make a majority of the visual effects that we see on screen. So it's not it's that's not going to change anything. So the She-Hulk visual effects, I don't think are the part of the charm of the show. They're definitely the detriment to the show. Because
yeah,
there are moments where you're taken out of it. I'm not gonna sugarcoat it. There definitely are. But I don't think that's like the huge aspect about it.
yeah. And now, all right. So what else do we have for Loki? What else happened that episode that we need to address? I'm trying to
There's
think of
not much
what.
else that happened in the episode. I'm just thinking like where's stuff going to go?
Yeah.
Because
What do
we
you
got
think's gonna?
3 episodes left.
Do you think they're gonna use his temporal loom or his temporal aura to fix the temporal loom, or do you think they'll just use like him as a way to override it? Like, do you think he'll have like? I'm trying to think of how they can use him to fix it.
Yeah, I don't
Cause he.
know. I don't know what Victor Timely's motivations are right now, or who he is, or
Oh, that's a good point.
what his motivations are. That has me a bit confused. I don't
Yeah.
know what Ravonna and Miss Minutes um like motivations are at this point because they just changed at the end of the episode and they're being
Right.
coy about it. So I don't know. I'm completely in the dark about what's going to happen next. All I
Yeah.
can assume is that by the end of the show, everything goes to shit.
Yeah. I think that's gonna have to. It's gonna have to like go to shit, and then like if we don't get another Loki for like another year or two, like whenever we get to around like maybe phase 6, maybe then season 3, it'll be like a nice trilogy to Loki, and it'll be like the closing thing, hopefully, on multi travel or
Yeah.
multiverse TVA stuff. But um, trying to think what Sylvie's motive is because like Sylvie interests me a lot. I like the character. I'm wondering if she's gonna like because she went through the. I'm trying to wonder where she went. She kicked Ravonna through the door with Miss
Hmm.
Minutes.
And
But
then
I'm wondering,
presumably went back home. Went back to
yeah,
the
I'm wondering if she
McDonald's.
went back home or if we're gonna see her again back in with she's gonna follow Loki the TVA and like she's kind of like against the TVA, but also needs to help fix the temporal loom so she doesn't lose her
She
home.
yeah, she
So
doesn't she's not accepting
yeah,
that for her to have a life, the TVA needs to exist.
yeah,
Um, at least that's what Loki's saying, because they're saying that if the temporal loom fails, all of time ceases to exist. Which
yeah.
I don't. Is that really a thing, or is just the TVA not going to exist?
Yeah, that's why I don't know. It seems like a lie. I feel like because
Yeah,
time existed before the temporal loom. So
presumably,
without,
yeah,
yeah, so without the temporal loom, like shit, just it's like the world's just gonna start. Is it gonna create many incursions? Like it's, I don't understand. Like, is it just gonna
yeah.
like be like
Is the
branched timelines
temporal
and it's just gonna?
is the temporal loom creating big bangs? Like,
Hmm. Yeah, I don't know. But like there should right now we bought some time with that when they bomb the timeline. So that
mhm.
should to me that makes sense that it bought some time because it's not as much of an overload on it. But yeah, I don't know.
uh,
I don't know from here.
yeah, but like, I mean, ideally, if what Loki is saying is true, she needs the TVA exist to be able to live her life without like worrying about the TVA or anything else.
Yeah,
Um,
that's what I get. But
but
she seems
she's like,
unpredictable.
no, the TVA needs to fail. All of He Who Remains needs to die, and all these branch timelines need to just happen. Um,
Yeah,
so I don't know. Her
that's
her
about what I got.
interests
So.
are going against what she wants.
Hmm. Yeah, I'm confused with her character. She's kind of just playing whatever makes sense to her in the moment,
Yeah,
basically.
but
Um,
that's about it. It's just a cool episode, but not like too much happened to talk about,
yeah, I
unfortunately.
was just say like a lot of questions were answered,
Hmm.
but then there's like a lot of new ones now as to what's gonna happen going forward.
Yeah,
So
I'm wondering. I'm thinking Victor Tomley's not going to be the only version of Kang the Conqueror that we see
we
in
see.
this season.
That's what I was kind of thinking, and I'm hoping for that. I would love to see more versions of him.
Well, we heard a voice of one of his variants in the past EVA, and that
Yeah,
sounded more like Kang the Conqueror from Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. Probably not the same Kang the Conqueror, but a version of him.
right.
Um, so I'm pretty sure they're gonna start introducing other versions of this character in the show.
So their names are always different, right? Like let's say there's Victor Timely, there's Nathaniel, I
Hmm.
always forget his name.
Richards.
There's Nathaniel Richards. There's always different beginning stages for the character. So like is Kang the Conqueror kind of like his villain name, like what he's been called throughout this like the years? Because he says he goes by many names. So like
Yeah,
he's had King the
he's been many
Conqueror.
names in the comics as well, including
Yeah,
many different villain names.
yeah. So it's kind of like there's lots of different, let's say there's variants of Tony Stark, but then they all become different versions of like Iron Man or something, like Iron Man, War Machine, whatever you want to like just give it. So it's
Hmm.
kind of like that's just how I'm trying to wrap my head around it. So there's different villains of Nathaniel or Victor who end up becoming Kang the Conqueror, or He Who Remains, or whatever. I'm gonna say He Who Remains is just the guy from the Sacred Timeline. Basically, I call Kang all the other versions who are out to
No, he
destroy
who
everybody.
remains wasn't from the Sacred Timeline.
He's the one who created
He
the
is the
Sacred
one that
Timeline.
created the Sacred Timeline. Yeah,
Right, right. So yeah, he created the Sacred Timeline. There's a version of him from the 1800s that is Victor, right? That's a
Victor
it's
Timely. Yeah,
Victor
who
Timeline. Okay.
is from the Sacred Timeline.
Yes. Okay. Yeah. So he. So I'm assuming, if I had to guess, I'm assuming He Who Remains saw like the Marvelversal War, the Multiversal War. Everyone's killing each other, destroying each other, incursions are happening, etc. And he's like, I need to save one timeline and just keep it separate from everything else.
Yeah,
And that's what. So he jumps to one. There's a version of him,
yeah, that's where
and
our
then he just
theories
weaves his
decline. Yeah, because you're like, I need
yeah,
to keep it separate. So you're thinking like the multiversal war is still happening, but the Sacred Timeline is separate from that. My
yeah.
theory is the multiversal war is happening. I'm going to end it
Yeah.
and destroy everything and just have one
I
timeline.
see. I like yours too. Like yours makes sense for the fact that the multiversal war isn't happening, and but like he's like,
Yeah,
if you kill me, it's gonna be out of my hands again, and it's gonna end up restarting. Um,
yeah.
and
Well,
that
that's how
makes
they
sense.
explain it in the
Yeah.
introduction video of Loki, of the season one.
Yeah, and then that's where the hole in mine happens because to me, I'm like, well, the multiversal war can't be happening everywhere because it wasn't happening in like Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man or Tobey Maguire's. You know, they didn't
Yeah,
think
but
that
it's
far ahead,
those are
but
different points in time, right?
right.
It can happen
So we
at
could,
different
yeah,
moments in time.
we could have it different. Yeah, it does. It's just whenever the streams cross, right, or the
Yeah.
branches intercept. So
Also, if you
like
recall
it
what
could
I was
happen.
saying during our Spider-Man podcast, but um, I was saying that each of those movies that No Way Home was pulling from
Yeah,
had different points of time in that timeline, which means
yeah,
they were from multiple different timelines. So,
yeah. Gotcha.
Doctor Octopus was pulled from a different time than Green Goblin and
Right.
Sandman. So,
Yeah.
like, there's already like uh multiple branches happening in the Tobey Maguire universe.
Right.
So,
Oh man, that's so crazy if they ever explain all the different Spider-Man theories
no,
and like
because
when they say they're gonna send them back.
yeah, well, that's going to come down to Sony. And
Yeah,
Sony has their own explanations of stuff from what we've seen in Across the
yeah,
Spider-Verse. And also, they tend to ignore stuff from the MCU and just
yeah.
make up. They're like, yeah, we're part of the MCU, whether they like it or not. And we're and we're going to say that this is how it works in our universe and how it contradicts the MCU universe.
I don't know if we're gonna see. I don't know when we're gonna see Spider-Man next. It probably won't be for a very long time.
And Tom Holland Spider-Man?
Tom Holland Spider-Man. Yeah. Like I'm trying to think of what
Yeah,
I
they're in the works of the fourth movie.
are they?
Yeah.
Is it
Before
gonna be?
before the writer strike and actor strike happened, they were in initial talks about it.
Is it Sony that's gonna be doing it or
Sony
Marvel? Or
Sony has their name on everything for
yeah,
Spider-Man, so Sony is
yeah.
technically doing all of it. But
Oh boy.
Marvel Studios
Yeah,
um basically works on the Spider-Man movies for the MCU.
yeah,
But it's Sony in association with Marvel, but it's yeah, it's Marvel doing it, but like Sony has their name on it. So
yeah. Well, we'll see. See when we get him next. What else do we have for Loki? Trying to think. I think we covered everything for that episode. It was a pretty quick one.
yeah,
It was a good one. I liked it a lot. I liked learning about Victor Timely, but it was just different.
yeah.
Miss This is probably the most missed minutes had on screen time too as well.
We haven't seen her through the whole season yet.
Who?
Missed minutes.
Miss
Like this is the
Miss
first
I
time
know.
we've seen her.
Yeah, I'm saying like throughout like all of season one and like whatever. Like this is probably
Oh,
the most screen time she's had. Like she's probably had more screen time in this
yeah.
episode than all of season one.
She's definitely
Which is
becoming, at least in this episode, more of a main character.
right, right. So I'm
Yeah.
curious as to what her and Renslayer's plan is going to be and their secret. Yours makes sense. That's what I was kind of hinting at. I was like, it's going to be like a family thing or like a love affair, something that he was like, yo, like we had a life together, but I don't do this shit. I do this shit
Well,
alone.
if
So
you
I'm gonna send you
recall
back to
in the first episode, so there's the tape that Loki was listening to.
yeah,
So uh, whoever that variant was, I'm saying it's Kang the Conqueror.
yeah,
Um, he was talking to Renslayer and how much he appreciated that she was by his side with everything in the
yeah,
war. He was talking about the war.
yeah,
So yeah, they definitely had some sort of relationship and partnership,
yeah.
and
And they
not
went to the
Victor
sacred
Timely, but
yeah, and they went to the sacred timeline and they saw her, like they saw a variant of her, right? What was she again? Was she a
yeah,
teacher?
she was a teacher in the year 2018, I think,
Wonder if she,
before COVID.
yeah, it'd be crazy if she wasn't from the sacred timeline either. Maybe he didn't take her from the sacred timeline.
Oh,
Maybe
she was
if
though.
she, but what if she was like you said? What if she like helped him through the multiversal war? What if she helped him end it to create one sacred timeline? What if she's also from a different timeline, like universe that he completely erased as well? And then she has her variant on the sacred timeline, like he has Victor Timely. I'm just trying to think
Maybe,
of like
yeah.
crazy secrets, right? Like I'm just trying to think of like outside the box. Like what if her whole life was completely erased, her family, everything. So even if
Yeah,
she
so
goes back,
you're saying the version of Ravonna that we see in the TVA might not have had the life of that teacher in the sacred timeline. She might have been a variant of that character from a different timeline.
yeah, like what if she could have her whole life and family? So even if she
It's possible.
was to integrate back into the like the sacred timeline, what if a big secret is like that was never your family anyways? Like
Mm.
those people never knew you. Those people like you're different on this, sacred timeline.
I would
So
say that's a possibility.
yeah, I'm just
Just
trying. I was just
based,
trying to think of like crazy scenarios
yeah,
where like how make the secret more drastic. So
yeah. I
especially if
guess
there's
we'll see.
audio with them like being by their side during the
Yeah,
multiversal war, like that makes sense then.
yeah. I'm curious how this will all play out and how time travel works.
Hmm.
Also how this is going to lead into, I'm assuming the Kang Dynasty movie.
Yeah,
But I'm wondering if there's like a moment in between this show and that movie
yeah,
where we'll see any sort of progress or reference to the show. So like, maybe I was thinking about it, like, maybe like even like Fantastic Four, because I think that's coming out before the Avengers movie.
yeah.
The rumor is that we'll see TVA in Deadpool,
Huh.
which would make total sense
Yeah,
if
that would make
if
sense for
if
sure.
they do that. Um,
I hope Loki's in it. That'd be amazing. If
Loki
Loki
and
runs into
Deadpool.
Deadpool, yeah, that'd be cool. That'd be a good
Um,
crossover.
I think what we know about Deadpool right now is that Jennifer Garner is going to be in it, and she's
Okay, yeah,
reprising the role of Elektra.
yeah.
The rumor
I
is
love her.
that
I have a huge crush
Yeah.
on her. So
The rumor is that a bunch of former X-Men stars are going to make an appearance, like
obviously
in addition
Wolverine.
to in addition to Wolverine, so like Halle
Yeah.
Berry and all that stuff. Um,
Just,
but now
like
I think people took those rumors and then just started going wild because they're like, yeah, we're also gonna see like Ghost Rider and Blade and like all this
yeah,
other stuff,
it
which
would
could
make
be the
say.
case.
I'm
Could be the
sure we'll see
case.
Professor X. I'm sure we'll see Professor X.
Maybe.
Yeah.
How's Patrick Stewart doing these days?
That's what I was wondering. I was like, God, I'm gonna say this, and then I'm gonna be like, oh, didn't you hear he passed away? And I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, but
Yeah, I don't
uh,
know.
I don't know. I mean, he's in a wheelchair already, so like,
I guess.
I love Patrick Stewart, love him.
Yeah.
So if he's in it, cool. More things he's in, the better. I mean, he was just in Doctor Strange, so like,
Yeah, but that
what
wasn't.
was it?
That was filmed when?
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, they're
During
not.
sometime during
They're at like
COVID,
halfway
so
through filming. They're
yeah,
halfway through filming Loki right now.
yeah. Um, hmm. Trying to think of what else.
Okay.
Can't think of anything else. There's something of Ravona. Like I just keep coming back to her. I was trying to think of
Okay.
like different like what the big secret could be. Like wait, what if it was her idea? You know how like we saw the past where he was like on the statues of stuff, but then he covered it up with the three like people. Like what if it was her idea to like take some of the like
And
whatever off of
erase her own memory.
like erase his like hey like everyone's gonna be coming after you if they find out it was you, let's make it this, and he's like that's a good idea, and like changes all these things to her idea. Like I'm just wondering if even though like when if you're saying like she's the love interest, like what if a lot of the stuff that Kang came up with was a lot of her ideas, and then he betrayed her and then sent to erase her memory and made her become like the TVA, and she's gonna be real
Mm.
pissed if she was like that was her idea, that was her idea, the TVA was her idea, like all these things, especially if it came from a different universe that was wiped out or something. So
Sure. Um.
yeah.
But what does
And
she
like
want
I
to
know
do at that point? Does she want to? Does she want to rule everything?
I don't know, maybe she could sense like you know, if Miss Minutes tells her all this and he's dead now, so that should make all of her ideas or anything, all of it should be hers. Like she could totally just be coming for the throne then after. Like it should be like, I'm entitled to all this, I'm gonna change it. I want maybe she unlocks her memories back. Like I don't know how that's gonna work, but maybe she wants to get Sylvie to enchant her and we can
Yeah.
find out where her memories came from. Like that's there's still a lot to be discovered with Sylvie's like enchanting thing. She can unlock a lot of people's memories back. Like be crazy to see. So I don't know. There's a lot of holes out there. I know like some stuff they take ideas from comic books. So even though like comic books have their own thing,
Yeah.
there's stuff that like is like just ideas and it's like twisted and manipulated. So who knows?
That is. I'd say that's a good possibility.
Yeah.
That's. I mean that makes sense. She had stuff that's her ideas. She's not gonna like
Yeah.
learning that these were her ideas. So yeah, I can see that. Uh,
Especially if you said they were love interests and they were partners at one point or something.
yeah.
So
Anything else you want to touch on for this episode before we wrap up? Unless you want to keep going, but it sounds, but I we wanna wrap up, right?
yeah, I don't have anything else that I can think of really honestly. Like it was a good episode. I enjoyed it a lot. I just I think it honestly it answered a lot of my questions, but it kind of left us like with like three different stories again that are like we know where people are going, but we don't know what's
Mm,
going to happen. So we got Mobius, Loki, and Victor Timely going to the TBA. We got Sylvie, who's the last we saw her was in the barn. She's in the wind. And then we got Miss Minutes and Renslayer, who are lost at the end of time at the moment.
yeah.
So
This is
they're
a hard
trapped
show
there.
to. What?
Yeah, they're trapped there, right? I'm assuming because she kicks them through a time door.
They don't have a temp pad.
Yeah. So unless Miss Minutes can come up with something, like she's smart, maybe she can create the technology.
Off of what?
Uh, that's yeah. So I don't
How
know.
big is that citadel? There's just marble and
It's true.
debris there.
But it was home to He Who Remains. I'm sure he must have his own way to leave and come and go wherever he wants, unless he just stays at the end of time. Like I don't know
Maybe
what.
his temp pad kind of seems like it was created from a chunk of the marble in the citadel. So
Yeah,
maybe they can fashion something from that, from like maybe one
yeah,
of the broken statues or something. I don't know.
yeah.
I don't get how that works.
Miss Minutes must know. Well, see, here's the thing. Miss Minutes was in the end of time when Loki and Sylvie first showed up, right?
It seems like she can travel, but
Yeah, so she
also she
must.
can't escape a handbag.
Yeah, I don't know, because she was there when
Yeah.
Loki and Sylvie showed up. She
Yep.
was talking to them, and they were like, "We're gonna keep going." And then she was like, "Okay." And Miss Minutes was all pissed. And then they went and saw the guy at the end of time. Loki got kicked into the past. Then Sylvie took his temp pad and went wherever he wanted. But then this time we saw Miss Minutes, but she was in the wind, and then she was in the past doing whatever she wanted. So Miss Minutes clearly has a way of getting out. Like she has some.
I'm thinking that's
I don't
it.
know.
She travels back to some sort of point, or she can go to the TVA if she wanted to,
Yeah, I guess so.
and
She's
then
got she'll be the way out, whatever it
and
is.
try to convince somebody, hey, I need you to travel to the end of time and bring Ravonna back.
Yeah,
Which, if we're going that route, I would say she's going to try to contact General Docs
yeah,
because she'll be like, okay, well, Ravonna wants order, I want order,
right.
um, and I want her back in charge so that way we can get shit done. So yeah, I'll go rescue her.
Yeah, yeah. That's the only way I can think of how she's gonna get out of there, though. Is it's got to be through Miss Minutes.
Yeah, the show's hard to predict because
Yeah,
there's
it
so many
is.
questions we have, right?
Yeah, I feel like I was good at predicting the first one when I knew they were gonna go and bomb the timeline. I was like, I got
Mm-hmm.
that. And then we were right about them having to go back and find a variant or whatever if He Who Remains. So like we were right about that.
Yeah,
But like this part now, I don't know what they're gonna do. The only sort of theory I have is that they're gonna have to tweak, manipulate, or hack Victor's temporal aura to fix the thing at some way. And maybe
yeah.
that's what breaks it more. Maybe that's just what makes it go haywire because they're tampering with it. But
I think
that's the only
they're
sort of theory I have.
yeah, I think they're going to realize that Victor is not he who remains, and they
Yeah,
put chips on him um, that he can't live up to,
yeah,
and they're not going to resolve the temporal loom situation with him. So they might still be looking for Miss Minutes or a different version of Victor Timely from one of the timelines that are already branching.
right. Yeah, and that's about it. That's like all the theory I have is just that. Is like that's the only possibility I have is uh the Victor Timely thing, and obviously it's gonna do something with temporal aura, whether it works or doesn't. That's the only two options, and then yeah, that's about all we got so far.
That's all
The
we
rest,
got so far, and unfortunately, you're gonna have to wait to see what else we got from the new episodes because we're not gonna be around for a bit.
yeah,
But when we do, we'll be discussing episode 4, and we might. I don't know what's the best way to deal with this because I want to be able to do what we're doing right now: watch the episode and then talk about our theories because I think we had some interesting discussions,
yeah,
not knowing what's in the next episode, right?
right,
So is that what we want to do? So we want to look at it where we can. We're probably going to be like recording in what 2 weeks?
yeah. I believe not this coming Monday, but hopefully the next Monday. So
Sure.
we're looking at, I think we said November 6th. So we're gonna miss
Mm-hmm.
October 30th, Monday,
Yeah.
and then November 6th. We should be able to talk about episode 4.
Well, the episode's coming out. So when the episodes come out, they come out on Thursdays, I think. So we're going to be
Yeah.
missing this week and next week's episode by the time we can record.
Um,
Uh,
that's true.
yeah.
You are right. Yes, because I will
So
be missing
so
tomorrow's.
yeah. So
Or
as of recording, the episode that's coming out this week
mm,
is one that we will be discussing in 2 weeks.
Yes. Okay. You're right. So we will discuss about episode 4,
Mm-hmm.
hopefully around November 6th that
Yeah.
week. Then we can watch the next episode.
Try to avoid spoilers too, which is gonna be tough.
Yeah. And maybe if we can watch at least those 2 that
Yeah.
week, maybe we could do a podcast Monday and Tuesday. Those are my days off, so I could probably
We would have to do. I
a
don't want to be.
back-to-back podcast.
Yeah. I don't want to be influenced by the next podcast.
Right. So we had
On
to watch this Thursday's. We have to watch at least by November 6th.
I'll do it.
Then
I'll do it this way.
maybe that night we could watch the Loki together.
Yeah.
And then the Tuesday we talk about that one, and then we wait for the Thursday and follow up there. But we'll see.
Right.
We'll touch base when obviously once we're both not doing what we're doing this week. So
Yeah. I'll put it this way. Since we're not gonna be caught up on where things are
Mhm.
when we record them, they will not be live streamed to Twitch. They will
Right.
just be uploaded to YouTube. So that
Yeah.
unfortunately we won't get live chats. We don't get live chats on the Twitch stuff anyway.
Yeah.
If we get any views, it's on YouTube. So that's just gonna be the only change, I think. And then we'll just try to
Okay.
catch up when we can.
Yeah, it's fine as long as whoever's watching is able to watch it all in order. That's
Yeah.
fine. So YouTube's perfect for that. So
Well, I think that's it for us. So thanks for watching. If you got theories, by the time this is uploaded on YouTube, the new episode might be out. But if you haven't watched the new episode, you got theories, you can let us
Yeah.
know in the comments.
yeah, for sure.
But we'll see you in a bit for next couple weeks, and we'll talk about episode 4. Thanks for watching. Have a good night.
See ya. Funny.